In today's video, we're going to make this bomb throwable work so that it actually explodes and set up all the code. Hi, my name is Michael. Welcome to my 2D action and adventure RPG tutorial series. Follow along and learn how to create your own ARPG in Godot 4 using GD script. All right, so yeah, we're gonna finish this bomb, right? We had built the bomb scene in the previous video to have the animations and things like that. So in this tutorial, we're gonna go through and we're gonna add a throwable to our bomb and we're gonna hook it up so that it works. But this isn't gonna be a regular throwable. We're going to extend the script. So we have a bomb, throwable bomb type that extends throwable, and it's gonna have some of its own variables, alternative functionality. And along with this, we're gonna be refactoring our throwable script to make it, easier to use for this purpose. So it's gonna be kind of involved. But ultimately, it will open up possibilities for you to use this throwable to do your own thing. So if you want to kind of take what we're going to do here and create other unique types of throwables, you can do that. Okay, so we'll get started. Just make sure you follow the previous video and you've got this bomb scene set up like this. Most of this stuff should already be in there and we'll be ready to go. All right, so the thing about this bomb is we want to give it its own custom script so that we can determine things like the fuse length and some other things like that. But I also want this bomb to be something that we can pick up and throw. And with this project, we've already built some scripts and a scene that supports this throwable functionality. And so we want to use that as well. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of combine those two. We're going to make an extended version of the throwable script that's specific to the bomb, that has the bomb specific code inside of it. All right. So I will have a link to those videos if you want to go back and start with those, or at least to the first. It should just be 2 videos. But let's start by adding one of these throwable how do I spell throwable scenes here. And now the throwable scene needs like a collision shape so that we know where we can pick up the shape here. So we'll just add a child collision shape 2D. Hey, look at that. It was already on collision shape. And then this collision shape, we'll just make it a simple rectangle shape 2D. And I'm going to set the width to, I think about 16 pixels, and the height we'll just make 8. So it looks like that, okay? So this is the shape that our player's interact area has to be overlapping before we can pick up the object. And now we've got on the throwable some settings, right? Like the gravity, throw speed, throw height, things like that. And I am going to adjust these. I don't want it to throw quite like the regular throwable. I want it to maybe go higher or lower. So I'm going to just kind of adjust like the throw speed. It's going to be a little bit slower, and maybe the height will increase to 150. And everything else I'll leave alone. Now, if we run this scene, we've got our bomb placed here. And actually, I'm going to take this slime, move him down out of the way. Okay, so we've got a bomb here. I should be able to pick it up and throw it. Yeah, except we've got an error. Let's see, what's this error here? Invalid access to property or key position on base of object, null instance. Okay. So this is on our throwable script. Let me go ahead and stop that. I think this is because I didn't consider this, but shoot, let me look at the throwable script. It's expecting us to have certain objects maybe in here, and we're in our ready function maybe. Object sprite equals throwable.find child sprite 2D. Okay, so that's a little bit of an issue. Let's just go to our bomb. We can take our bomb sprite. Let me just rename this and we'll call it sprite 2D. In our previous video, we called that the bomb sprite. I'm going to go ahead and save this and let's run this one more time. I believe this will fix the issue. Okay, there we go. So I've got this bomb sprite. I set the animation to looping. So now I can pick up my bomb and I can throw it. Okay. Which is great, except I can't pick it up again. And we got an error because by default, our throwable tries to destroy it when it hits the ground. So you can see here in an error that didn't find the animation called destroy. So we've got some issues that we need to work out, right? But just based off of that alone, at least we can now pick up and throw our bomb. And so this extended version of our bomb script is going to allow us to pick up and throw multiple times. And it's just going to allow us to continue to throw it until it explodes. It's not going to, destroy itself when it hits the ground or anything like that. Okay, so I'm back in my bomb scene, and let's create this new script. And now normally we would be attaching the script to the kind of the root scene of this object here, the bomb. In this case, we're not, because we're going to replace it on the throwable, because like I said, we're going to extend this script. And so I'm just going to go to my bomb folder here, and let's create a new script that I'll just call it bomb. I think that should be fine. Okay. And then this bomb script, I'm going to open this up. And I actually want it to extend throwable, just like that, right? Because that's our throwable class here, okay? And I want to give it a class name. We'll call it like a throwable bomb, I think, okay? So there we go. We've now got a script. Because this is its own separate thing, I'm going to come down here to our throwable scene in the bomb, and I'm going to go ahead and make this local, which is going to break its connection to the parent scene. It's not going to get in or inherit any of those changes that we make to that scene. Okay. But now we can just adjust it and work with it as is. And we've got a script here that now that we've made it separate, I'm going to go ahead and say quick load, and we just want it to be the bomb script like that. Okay. And just with that small change, nothing really should happen because that script is extending throwable and we haven't written anything in there. So let's just run this and see if it works. And I believe it will. Yeah, it still works. Okay, still does the exact same thing. And while we're at it, you guys shouldn't have to do this because you weren't messing around with your bomb too much in between maybe, but I need to go to my animation for default, and I need to turn off my looping. There we go. Okay, so let's open this bomb script, this throwable bomb. Okay, so what are the things that we need to do with this? We need to make it so that we have some settings that are specific to our bomb. In particular, we want a fuse duration. I also want some settings for a bounciness because this isn't going to destroy when it hits the ground. I want to be able to have some settings to configure how much it bounces. And we'll need a couple other variables to kind of track that, you know, has it bounced and maybe some things like that. And then we'll get into it. So let's go ahead and start by adding these export variables. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them each into little categories so we can go export category. And this export category is going to add, you know, a section here to the inspector. So we'll call this first one our bomb settings. I'm only going to add one bomb setting, and you can add others if you feel that you need them, but I'm going to just export a range, and this is going to be a range. Let's see. The minimum will be 1 and the maximum will be 10. And what this is going to be is it's going to be the fuse duration. Okay. So I also want to maybe put a step of 0.1 seconds. And lastly, if we want, we can include a suffix that we want to add. So this variable we'll call, let's see, we'll call it fuse duration, I guess. And it'll be a float. And by default, I'm going to set it to 4 seconds. I'm probably not going to adjust this, but you can. Okay. And obviously, if you think longer than 10 seconds or less than 1 is appropriate, then by all means, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and export another category, and this is going to be for our bounce settings. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this to bounce. And what we're going to have here is 2 export ranges. So we're going to have one for how bouncy it is and one for a maximum number of bounces before it stops bouncing. So we'll go export range. And then the minimum for this one, this is for our bounciness. I'm going to say 0.1. And then a maximum will be 0.9. I don't think you want 1. As far as I understand it, that would mean it bounces with the exact same force. So it would like never stop. And then a step of 0.05 seems appropriate, I think. Now this variable bounciness is a float. By default, I'm going to set it to 0.5. And that does require an equal sign. Okay. And then we'll export one more range for what was the other one I said, for the max bounces. Now this is an integer. So we'll go 1 to 10 and the step will be 1. Max bounces, integer. And I'm going to set this to 5 by default. Okay. Now, along with these, I'm going to track 2 variables that are going to help us kind of perform the functionality we need. So obviously we need a variable. If we have a maximum number of bounces, we're going to want to count those. So I'm just going to keep a bounce count, and By default, that'll of course equal 0 because it hasn't bounced when we start. And then I'll make one more, and I'm going to call this the OG for original throw speed. And you'll see how this comes into play later, but this is going to be a float, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Okay. Now, lastly, one thing that we want to do is I want to keep track of this explosion sprite that we've got in here, because we're going to be needing to do some minor adjustments to that to get it to look and work properly when the bomb is like exploding midair when we've thrown it. Okay. So we're just going to grab an already reference to that. And there we go. We've set up all of the basic variables that we need to extend this script and make it work for our bomb. Okay, so now what we can do when we're extending a script, and we've maybe done this a little bit before, but this might be a newer concept, we can write functions that override the functions in our other script if we want it to function differently. And we can also write functions that inherit the original functionality and then add additional. And we're going to do that with starting with our ready function. Okay. Now, in order for this ready function to not overwrite the ready function of our previous bomb, or not bomb, but throwable script, what we need to do is we need to call super. And I learned a little bit more about super when I was on my live stream, but what super will do is at the line this is called, it's going to look at the script it extends, and it's going to find the ready function here, and it's going to run all of that code. Now, even if this ready function has like a return condition somewhere, it will still proceed to this line in our ready function. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind because that could affect things. It's not going to affect us too much here, but what we're going to do is I want to set my OG throw speed equal to the throw speed, because I want to just know, okay, when we threw this, what was it? Because this throw speed is going to change as it bounces. Okay, and so we're just going to keep track of that here. We also want to update some things. I don't want our hurt box to be doing any damage in the case of my bomb. I just want it to like bounce off enemies. It'll still hit them. But we already have a reference to the hurt box because it's referenced in our throwable script. It's in here somewhere, right? Hurt box. Okay. So I'm just going to say hurt box.damage equals 0. This is specific to our bomb. This is optional. You do not have to do this, but I kind of like it. And then what we're going to do here is, because we want to use our fuse animation, our default animation on the bomb as our timer, this is something I mentioned in the last video, right? We've got this, let me just pull it up. We've got our default animation. We're going to use this as our timer. And so what that means is I'm going to connect to the finished. When this animation is finished playing, we know that the fuse has run down and it's time to explode. So if I go back to my script, I'm going to update a few things here. First, I'm going to my animation player, which we also get a reference to in the throwable script. So I'm going to say animation player, cue an animation. So what this is going to do is it's just going to simply, once the default animation is done, we're going to queue up another one. So it's going to be explode. Okay. So let's just start with this and save it and see that if this is working as expected. So we should see the bomb go and then explode. Okay. Good. So far, so good. I also want to connect to when this animation changes, so I'll know when that explode is about to play. So I'm going to say animation player dot animation change dot connect, and we're going to have to make a function for this, right? On animation changed. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this line because we need to make this function for this to work, even if we don't fill it out just yet. Okay, so the on animation changed, this does pass an argument. And the argument, actually it passes 2. So we're going to have the old name, the old animation name, which is a string, and we're going to have the new name, which is also a string. Okay, so we need to put those in there or this won't work, even if we don't use them. And the reason I add an underscore on these, again, is because I may not use these variables, these values, but I just have to account for them because they're coming in regardless of whether or not I want them. And I'm just going to put pass in here. We'll come back to this on animation changed in just a moment, but okay, so we're going to connect to that signal. And then lastly, inside of this ready function, I just want to set the speed scale, right? Because we talked about how we've got this new setting that we're introducing. So if I look at my bomb and I select the throwable, I'm not seeing it. Where's my, oh, there, I got to scroll up. Okay, we've got this fuse duration. Right now it's set to 4. We need to take this into account. And if you recall in the previous video, I said we would just adjust the playback speed of the fuse based on this value. And that works pretty easily because we've made our animation duration 1 second. If we didn't make it 1 second, we might have to do a little bit extra math, but, or maybe not, I don't know. What we'll do though is we're going to say animation player dot, and then we're going to set the speed scale. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the current animation length. So we're going to say animation player dot current animation length. You could just say 1 second, but if you made an animation that's not 1 second, then this is going to change. But the only way for the time to be accurate is if your current animation or your default animation is 1 second. But I'm going to do this and just divide it by the fuse duration. And there we go. That's going to give us, you know, a modified playback speed. So now when I run the game, let's go ahead and go here over to scene 2 and run it. This bomb is going to take 4 seconds. Now we have an issue because the explosion is also being scaled. Okay, that's what we're going to use this onAnimationChanged function for. So let's come down here. So what we'll do is we'll come into our onAnimationChanged function, and we're just going to change that animation speed back. Okay, so in fact, let me just copy this animationPlayer.SpeedScale. Whoop, whoop. And here we'll just set it to 1. All right. Now if we save this and run this scene one more time, then this bomb, the explosion is normal speed. Okay, so we're good to go with that. Now, the next thing I want to work on is some of the throwable aspect of this bomb. And in order to demonstrate some of the changes I want to make, I want to demonstrate a couple issues with our throwables that I don't really love. So I'm going to run this scene again. And when let me get out of the way of this bomb real quick. When we pick up and throw things, one issue that we have is they don't hit the wall. And I need my throwable to be able to hit the wall, especially for this bomb, right? Because it needs to be able to bounce off of a wall. Like assume you want to blow up the hole in this wall, then you'd want it to bounce off of that, okay? So that's one thing that we're going to address. But also just in general, some of the code that we've written in our throwable script previously doesn't lend itself to being extended in the way that we want to with this bomb. And so we're going to make some changes to the throwable script as well. So let's go back to our bomb and let's just look at this. Let's make sure we've got our scripts. Here's our bomb script. And then let me open up the throwable script that it inherits. Okay, so we're going to first come into this throwable script and we're going to make a series of changes, and I'll talk about them as we go through. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is kind of silly, but it's important to me. We have this variable in here called the throwable, which is the same name as the class, which is confusing because we drop this scene into an object that makes that object become throwable. And so what I really want to do is I want this variable to be called the prop. This is the prop that we're throwing. So I'm going to do, just to find and replace, we got to make sure we turn match case on. Okay, so we're only going to be updating the word throwable. And then, oops, what did I do? Control F, let's extend this. Okay, so by clicking that little button, we get an option. So I'm going to replace throwable with prop. And you can see it's going to replace 20 matches. So let's do a quick replace all and then run it and make sure we didn't break it. So I'm going to run my scene here. And hopefully everything should work and I should still be able to pick up and throw these things. Okay, yeah, that seems to be working, right? Okay, good to go. Now, the next little change that I want to make is let's work on making it so that we can throw it at a wall and hit the wall. And in order to do that, we're going to need to add to our throwable scene an additional kind of collision area that we can use. Because right now we've got a hurt box. The throwable itself is kind of an area which is monitoring to see if the player overlaps with it. Maybe we could reuse this, but I think a simpler method is going to be to just add. So I'm just going to go ahead and add an area 2D. Hey, look at that. Okay, and we'll call this area 2D something different. We'll call it WallDetect, like that. And now we need to configure this. Technically, it's going to be monitoring and not monitorable. So I think we can turn that off. And then we'll just come down here to the collision settings. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll turn off the layers, and the mask we'll set to layer 5, the wall layer. So it's just going to be checking against the wall. Now, in order to make this work, if you recall what we did in the original throwable script, we built it so that we add a collision shape to the throwable, and then our script makes a copy of it and assigns it to the hurt box. So we want to do the same for the WallDetect so that we know what size that collision shape should be. So we'll go into our script and we'll update that. And the place where we set up these collisions is in, we've got a little function called setup hurt box, I think. Okay, so maybe we could rename this and we can call it like setup collision boxes or something like that, so that it makes a little bit more sense. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this name because now that I've renamed it, it's going to be unhappy up here where we call it. There we go. Okay, so setup collision boxes is going to work the same. It's basically just going to say, okay, did we find a collision shape? It's going to go through the children, right? As soon as we find it, we'll make a copy of that collision shape, add it to the hurt box, and then we're giving it a debug color, which, you know, is fine. But then what we'll do is we'll just basically repeat these 2 lines of code, but instead of adding it to the hurt box, we're going to add it to the WallDetect area. So this one we'll call col_2, and instead of adding it to the hurt box here, and make sure you update that variable name in both spots, right? Otherwise you'll be just adding this one to this guy over here. So this is going to be our WallDetect, and I guess we didn't grab that yet, right? We've got this onReady variable for our hurt box. Let's grab that here in the beginning of the script. So now it's called WallDetect. And so we can replace this here with WallDetect. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to set up that collision shape within this area so that it functions. But it doesn't really do anything quite yet. The next piece that we need to update, I guess, is going to be in our throw function. So let's find that. So what we have in our throw function here is we've got this spot where we begin monitoring our hurt box. We'll go ahead and copy these 2 lines maybe. And okay, we're going to replace this with WallDetect. And then our WallDetect doesn't have a did damage. We're going to replace this line altogether, but we'll call it WallDetect. And then what we want to check is the body entered signal, because what we're doing is we have an area and we're checking to see when it enters a body, which is on the wall layer. So we'll say body, did I miss my period? Yep. Body entered dot connect. And then we're going to need to make a new function for this, and we can just call it on body entered, like so, on body, except it's a body. Okay, so we'll copy that, and then we'll come down to the bottom of our file and create this new function. And I think we already have some other things like on area enter and exit. So we'll add this new function down here actually. So let's just grab that. Just keep them all together. Okay. Now on body entered, this signal is going to emit with a body, which is a node. So I'm going to call it _n. And this is a type node 2D that it will provide, kind of like how these ones give us an area, right? So obviously instead of an area, we've got a body. And so this function is going to be really simple. And what we could do right now is we can just call this destroy function. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and let's run our scene and see if this works. I think it should work. So I should be able to throw a pot against a wall. Never mind. Didn't work. Okay, what did we do? Did we not hook this up yet? I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just check. Let's look at our throw function. WallDetect.bodyEntered.connect on body entered. Let's see. I don't think the problem is here in the script actually. When I was setting up my throwable, we set the monitorable off. I'm gonna reset that. I think that's messing with it. I think I'm making an assumption that I don't need that. And in fact, here in the script, I'm just gonna turn this off. Okay. I think for now, just having the detect connect when we throw it is good enough. Okay, so now let's run this one more time and just see if this works. I think that will fix the issue. There we go. So now we can throw things like pots and plants into walls. We do have one minor issue that, see how it kind of gets blocked by the chest. I think it would be nice to be able to throw it over. So we're only going to have it break when it hits tile map walls. Now, in order to do that, we can just come down to our on body entered function and we'll add a condition in here. And what we want to do is just check to see if this body that we've entered is a tilemap layer object or not. And the reason this will work is because we've set up, all of our levels with the tilemap layer. So any wall that we encounter is probably going to be part of this. Now you may run into a situation in your own game where you have other types of objects that are walls and are tall enough. And so you might need to be a little bit more discriminatory in how you determine this. Like you might need to put them in a group or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to say if n is tilemap layer, then call destroy, right? So then what this will do when we run it again is now I'll be able to throw pots over things like treasure chest, right? But not walls. Okay, so there we go. Now it's going to make it easier to work with our bomb. Now there's one last thing that I want to do that's going to require some kind of refactoring to this whole script, and that's this destroy. Right now we're just destroying our object anytime these conditions hit, right? In this case, right here on the onBodyEntered, that's when it enters a wall. We also call onDestroy, let's see, here in the physics process, when we hit the ground. We call it here when it does damage to an enemy, and so on. And this is just the actual destroy function, okay? But that's not very good because with the bomb, when we hit a wall or an enemy, we just want it to kind of bounce off. Maybe it can do damage, but it's going to bounce off of them and not destroy the object. The bomb is going to stay there until it explodes. So in order to make this a little bit easier to handle, every spot where we're calling destroy, we're actually going to create a new function that we can call that's going to be able to handle, its own unique code. And in each of these instances, it's going to be slightly different, right? So let's look at this first one. Well, let's look at this one here in the physics process, okay? So this is where we've hit the ground. Now, instead of just destroying when we hit the ground, let's just make a function that tells us what we're going to do when we hit the ground. What we can do is I'll just replace destroy. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'm going to make a function called hit ground. And obviously this is not going to work just yet. But if I come down here to the bottom and create this new function, we can just put destroy in here. Now you're probably thinking, but wait, that doesn't do anything different. And that's fine because the bomb, when we go back to the bomb script, since it inherits this, we'll just overwrite the functionality of hit ground in the bomb script, okay? But for a normal throwable, it's gonna destroy it. Okay. Now the next place we need to deal with this, I guess, is when we hit an enemy or a wall. So let's see, throw. See right here, when we in our throw, we connect the did damage signal to this destroy function. Okay. So every time it does damage, it wants to destroy it. But instead, let's just go ahead and we'll make a function called did damage. Okay. Just like this. I'm going to come down here and create this. Okay, now what we can do here is we can call destroy, which again seems like, well, that's the exact same thing, but also again, once we go back to our bomb script, we can just overwrite what happens when it does damage, okay? Now we do need to maybe get this damage call removed from a couple more spots. So I'm going to go ahead and redo this search. Okay, so we've got destroy. Okay, here we go. When body enters the wall, we can just call did damage here as well. Okay, and let's see. I think that's good. So now if we go ahead and save this and run our scene, technically nothing's going to change. Everything should work how it did just a moment ago. Okay, still works. I wanted to hit the... Yeah, hello. Okay, I wanted to hit this little dude down here. Okay, we can still hit enemies. Okay, so all that is still working. We do need to make a few other small changes in here. So let's go to our drop function. In here in drop, I just want to add this WallDetect connect. So, what we have on throw where we're connecting, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to add it here to my drop function. Okay. I think this all looks good otherwise. And then I think we may need to revisit this script one more time because we may have a few small bugs and issues as we work on the bomb. But for now, we've updated this so it'll be easier to work with. All right, so I'm back here in my bomb scene, and now it's time to make use of some of these changes. I'm going to go ahead and actually delete this throwable because I think I did some work while we were away, and I realized we can kind of improve this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a Shift Control A and add that throwable again. Okay. Now, instead of breaking this from the parent, all I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the script, to the throwable script, and I'm going to quick load, and I'm going to load the bomb script like that. And I need to add that collision shape back in. So let's just go ahead and do this real quick. I probably should have kept that instead of deleting it, but here we go. Just make a new rectangle shape and you know, set it up more or less how we had before. Okay, I think we had this at 16 width actually, and maybe only 8 tall. It was kind of small. Okay, so there's our bomb set up again. Let's go ahead and run our scene, make sure this still works. Okay, bomb throws. We're still getting this issue because our bomb doesn't have a destroy animation, but we're going to get into the script now of our bomb, and we're going to come and just kind of update all of this. A good way to check, sometimes it's hard to see. You can hover and see what script you have attached. You can see I've got the bomb script, and obviously when I clicked to open it, it's this throwable bomb. Now what we want to do is we want to start working on refining, overriding, and changing some of the functionality that we just got done updating in our throwable. Okay, that's going to help clear this error, and it's going to make it so we can start using these new bounce variables and kind of add that functionality to the bomb. So just a quick review, we've got a ready function, physics process, and on animation changed. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to come down here and we're going to start overriding some of our functions and making it do different things. So for example, let's start with the hit ground function, right? So we had hit ground, which is a function we just added in our throwable script. But instead of calling super like we've done up here, we're just going to overwrite the entire function. Okay, so if we don't call super, then it's saying, hey, don't do the hit ground in my parent script or the script that I extend, instead use this version. And so what we want to do is we want to build in the bounce functionality to this. And so we have a few variables, up here. Let's look at these again real quick. We've got a bounce count, and we've got bounciness and max bounces. So I guess the first thing we can do is as soon as we hit the ground, we'll just say, okay, we're going to bounce count plus equals 1. So we've bounced 1 time. And then we'll just do a check. If bounce count is greater than, or no, let's see. Let's do this, less than or equal to our max bounces. Okay, kind of like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cause it to bounce. So we'll say, let's see, let's get our object sprite, because remember, we're kind of animating this with the object sprite. This is the prop itself. We're just animating the sprite up and down. We're not actually moving it on the Y position, the whole object. So we're going to grab its position.y. And because this Y position on this sprite is what determines if it hits the ground, we're going to move it back up 1 pixel so that we know, okay, we're going back up. So we're going to say ground height -1. And now the ground height is like, okay, at what height am I hitting the ground? This is something you can review in our throwable script. We initialize this based on the position of the sprite. So we're going to say, okay, get that and move it 1 pixel above, so we're no longer hitting the ground. And then we want to update our vertical velocity. We have a vertical velocity again that controls how it moves. So we're going to say times equals, so we're going to multiply it. We can start by multiplying it by -1, which is going to reverse it. So if it's going down at 10 pixels per second, now it's going to be going up. But because this is bouncy, we have this bounciness variable. So we'll multiply it by the bounciness. So what this means is a higher bounciness variable means it's going to bounce higher. A lower one, like if you did 0.1, it's going to barely bounce. Okay. And then next, we need to adjust our throw speed as well. This is going to make it so that the bomb doesn't just keep like bouncing off into the distance, right? The vertical velocity is up and down. The throw speed is its kind of vertical velocity. So we're going to decrease this each time it hits the ground as well. This isn't super physically accurate, but it will work for what we want. So I'm just going to multiply this by the bounciness like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and save this and just run the scene. We should be able to now throw the bomb and see it bounce if everything's working. Bump, bump. There we go. Okay, that worked pretty good. We do have an issue where it's probably, you noticed how it went really far to the right because we want it to slow down as it bounces, or we want it to eventually stop, I should say. So let's just look at the values I've got set here. First, I need to go back to my bomb. I said a couple things earlier that now kind of got overwritten, I think. My bounciness point, I'm going to just drag this down to 0.25, and max bounces of 5 is good. And then I'm going to adjust my throw variables as well. I don't want to throw it quite as far, and I want to throw it a little bit higher. Okay, so let's just test those changes. Let's see what this looks like. We've got a little bug there. You saw how it fell through the floor. I'm okay with the other bounciness of the bomb, but let's go ahead and fix that. What we need to do is come into our hit ground, and eventually we're going to hit the ground and we're going to say, okay, just stop. No more physics. Let's just leave it. So let's go else, right? So if our bounce count is less than our max bounces, then we'll bounce it. Otherwise, we need to do something else. So let's start by setting our physics process to false so that it will no longer fall. Okay. And just that one change should be enough to prevent it from falling through the floor if we check this. Okay, there we go. It stops. But we want to do a little bit more in here as well, because we also want to disconnect some of the signals. We've got a signal to see if the hurt box is hitting something. Once it's sitting on the ground, we don't want that anymore. Same with the wall detection, things like that. Okay, so we're going to disconnect a few of those signals once it's done bouncing. So we will say, we'll start with the hurt box. We've got we're going to call set deferred here. And what the property we want to start by setting is our monitoring, and we'll set it to false. Okay. And just so you know, this is, let's go ahead and look at the throw. Basically this stuff that we did here, we're going to just clear it, undo that. Okay. So the next one is we're going to go to our, let's see, we're going to go to our hurt box dot did damage signal, and we're going to disconnect, and we're disconnecting from the did damage function. Next, we'll take our wall detect, and it's also been connected now to this body entered. We'll disconnect from that. Body entered dot disconnect, and we're disconnecting from on body entered. And this is going to be even more important in just a few steps. So right now, you're not going to notice a huge difference. Let's just go ahead and run this, make sure I've got this working. So I should be able to throw the bomb and walk into it, and it's not going to bump me. Okay. But what I want is I want to be able to pick it up again. In fact, let me just show you. I'm going to try. You can't pick it up again once you've thrown it, but I think that would be cool for the bomb, right? See, I'm pressing my interact. It's not working. So what we need to do, if we review our throw code, we do, let's see, somewhere. Oh, I think it's when we pick it up, right? Yeah, as soon as we interact with something, we disconnect these signals here. And we actually kind of want to just reconnect to these again, right? The area entered and exit, we need to reconnect to those. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to paste this, and instead of disconnect, we'll say connect. Okay, that's going to reconnect the ability to pick it up. Let me think, do I need to do something else? I think that's ready to test. Let's go ahead and test that. So this is only applying to the bomb, right? So if I throw the bomb and then come over here, I can pick it up again. Very good. And obviously I didn't throw it in time, it exploded. Okay. I noticed that the audio didn't play. That was interesting. I'll check that out in a second. Okay, so we've connected to those. We also need to maybe overwrite the did damage, because if I run this and just test this out, it's working when it's hitting the ground, but if I hit the wall, it's not working. And if I were to throw it at the enemy, it also would not be working. It's still trying to call that destroy, okay? So let's update this function as well. So we're going to come down here, and this is the did damage function that is normally destroying it in this circumstance. Okay, so let's look at this did damage function. So what we want to do with did damage now, we're going to, again, completely override it. We're not going to call super, so we're going to ignore the did damage right here. Let's see, where's did damage? Did damage, hit ground, just destroy. We don't want to do destroy. We want to do more bouncy kind of stuff, okay? So did damage, let's do this. Let's say variable. We want to take our kind of like the direction that we're throwing the bomb, and we want to reverse it. So like if we're throwing it to the right and it hits something, then we want it to start moving to the left. So I'm going to grab I'm going to call this throw magnitude. I think this is a good name for it. This is a vector 2. This is going to be our throw direction. Oops. I meant to type equals, but I did not. Okay. And then we're going to get the absolute value. And if we look at our throwable, the throw direction is another variable in here. Okay. It's this, as soon as we throw it, we set this. So let me just go ahead and search for it. Right. Here we go. We set it. And or we're using it here. Let's see. Where do we set it? I don't know where we set it. I guess that we set that from the player's throw state, I guess. But anyways, we do set it, and we're using it to move the object. Now, the reason I'm getting the absolute value is because we are moving in the X and the Y direction, right? This is kind of hard to explain. Let me just kind of come over here to the scene. Like, let's pretend I am this bomb. I've thrown it. We might throw it down. That's moving in the Y. We might throw it left or right, which is moving in the X. So because we're doing a fake throw, I'm basically going to say, okay, are we moving in the X axis or the Y axis more? Which one has a greater velocity? And I'm going to use that to determine which direction it should bounce. So if it's moving to the right and it hits this wall, then the bounce should be left. If it's moving down and it hits this wall, then the bounce should be up, right? Which obviously doesn't make sense there. But down here, if it's moving down and it hits this wall, then it'll bounce up, okay? So we're going to use, this is kind of a cheap, silly way to do a bounce. It's not completely physics-based, but it mimics physics, okay? So coming back in here, we're going to get the absolute direction or the absolute value of the throw magnitude, because we don't want negative numbers in this case, because -1 has a greater magnitude than a positive 0.5, right? Because magnitude is like the difference from 0 as opposed to negative or positive, okay? So what we'll do here is, now that we've got our throw magnitude, we'll do a check. If our throw magnitude dot X is greater than throw magnitude dot Y, these are going to both be positive because we've converted them to an absolute value. That means it's moving left or right. And so what we'll do here is we will take our throw direction and we will multiply it by a vector 2, and we're going to give it a -1 on the X and a 0 on the Y, okay? Or maybe we could even multiply that by 1 on the Y. Then we'll have an else statement. So we'll say else, and then we can say basically the same thing, right? And I was starting to type on the same line. I'm getting kind of tired and lazy, I guess. But instead of the negative on the X, we'll put it on the Y. Oops, like so. And the last thing we want to do is we want to adjust our throw speed. And we're going to multiply that by the bounciness, because we don't want it to have the same velocity in the opposite direction, right? So that's going to decrease the speed at which it's moving. Change the direction and decrease the speed. That's what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and just run this little bit of code and see if this works. I feel like I might be overlooking something, but let's grab the bomb. Okay, there we go. Bounced off the wall. Don't know why the bomb didn't hurt me. I feel like it should have. Let me just stand here. Okay, that worked. I might have disabled something that I forgot about. Yeah, that something's not working with that hurt box after it's hit something. We'll debug that in a second here. But we've updated this did damage now so that it bounces. So that's good. Let's address this image of it not doing damage. This is actually pretty straightforward. If we look at our throwable, we have a function disable collisions, okay? And this disable collisions, as you can see, it's going to go through all of our collision shapes and disable them. I'm going to see where we call this. Let's see. And it also is recursive. It goes through the children. Here in player interact, as soon as we pick it up, we're disabling all the collisions, okay? But we don't want to do that on our bomb for the hurt box. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our bomb, and we're going to override the disable collisions. We're going to change it a little bit. So we'll say func disable collision. Let's see, like that. And it requires a node. In fact, I probably should just copy that so we get it exactly right. Okay, I'm going to copy this and just paste it here. Boink. Now I know I didn't mess it up. And in this case, we still want to run the original disable collisions code. Okay, so we'll just call super. And because this is expecting this node, we need to pass that in. Okay, just like that. But then once it's run its regular code, we're going to get our hurtbox collision shape. And I'm going to go ahead and just do it this way. Let's go into our bomb. I'm going to drag this in here like so. Nope, not like that. Just drag and drop. So we get a reference to it. Okay. And then we're going to just set the disable to false. So that one, we're going to re-enable it essentially. That's what that's going to do. So now if we save this, go to our scene, run it, I should be able to throw this and it still does damage. Okay, better. Okay, I want to show another weird behavior. Okay, if you were testing, this is kind of like undesired. If I'm holding the bomb when it explodes, then the fire, it's like he still drops it, right? Now, dropping the bomb when we take damage is something we want to do if we're just carrying it around. So like, let's see if I can do this before I, oh no. I'm going to have to increase the fuse time maybe. Although let me try this just one time. See if I can do this fast enough. Okay, I'd pick it up, take damage. Okay, that's fine. Dropping it when I took damage, right? But if I took damage from the bomb itself, I just want the explosion to stay right where it is. So let's fix that real quick. I've got some error in here. We're going to have to fix this. Attempt to disconnect hurtbox. Non-existent connection. Interesting. Okay. We'll look at that later. So I'm going to come down here, and what we're going to do is we're going to override our drop function. This is the one that's getting called when we take damage. And we'll go ahead and call super on this because we do want to just call the original drop, but then we'll just do a check. Did I take damage from the bomb exploding? And here's how we'll do that. We'll get the animation player, and we're just going to check the current animation. Now this returns a string. So if the string is equal to explode, that's the name of our animation that it should be playing if it's exploding. So if this is true, we knew we took damage from the bomb exploding, or at least we knew the bomb just exploded or whatever. So then what we'll set here is we're going to say set physics process false. Let's run this and see if this works. We may have an issue with something here, but I think this will work. So just pick it up and let it blow up. Boom. Okay. Two issues. One is the bomb went straight down, but we've got a little debug error here. Removing a collision node during physics callback is not allowed and will cause undesired behavior. Remove with call deferred instead. Now what this is caused by is we've got some stuff happening up here in our physics process that apparently, right, is giving us an issue. Let's see, where's my physics process up here? There it is. I mean, let's see, I think it's happening here in the hit ground eventually. It said in drop, right? Where's drop? Actually, let's look at drop. What am I doing? Drop. Here we go. So here we've got an issue where we're trying to remove a collision box. So it says remove with call deferred instead. Let's see if we can fix this. Okay, removing a collision object. Where's the collision object we're removing? I actually don't see it. Oh, here it is. Maybe that's the one. Remove child prop. No, not no. Yeah. This right here. I think this is what's causing that error. You'll notice down here, we're adding the child with a call deferred, but we're not removing it. I think this is what's causing it. So what we'll do is we'll say prop.getParent, and then instead of .remove child, we'll say .call deferred, like that. And it removed my little remove child, right? So, okay, right here, we'll just say remove child, comma, prop. Okay, that's going to fix, hopefully, that error. Let's run this again. We'll pick up the bomb. We might still have one more issue with it. See what happens here. Boom. The explosion dropped to his feet. It was hard to see. It was kind of instant. So that is our second issue. Go back to our bomb script so we can fix that as well pretty easily. And what's happening, see bomb script down to drop. What's happening is our sprite is getting set at the 0, or it is at the 0, 0 position, okay? And so what we need to do is we just need to, and by sprite, I mean our explosion sprite, right? So let's grab, I think I want to do it before the set physics process just to be safe. Actually, I don't think it'll make a difference, but so let's say explosion sprite dot position, and we'll just set it equal to the prop sprite or the bomb sprite, which is going to be object sprite, not pject, but object sprite dot position. Okay, this should fix that little issue there. Run it one more time. We've done quite a bit here. I think it's just about done though. Okay, yeah, you see how that stayed on top. That was perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Okay, so we've got one more issue that I need to demonstrate. And in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to go to my bomb. I'm going to increase the fuse duration to like 20. Oh, 10 is my max. 10 will be good enough. Okay, so let's run this. Now there's an issue because if I pick up the bomb and throw it, I can't, when I throw it again, it's all messed up. See that? It just goes straight up and down. And what's happening there is as we throw the bomb, we're decreasing this throw speed, okay? Each time it bounces until it reaches 0 or maybe close to it. But that throw speed is what we use here. Where is it? Well, let's look at the physics process in Throwable. Here we go. We're multiplying it by throw speed. That's how we're getting it to move, okay? And if we look at throw speed here, we're multiplying it by bounciness. It's getting smaller. So what we want to do, and we've already kind of planned for this, we've got this OG throw speed, and we're setting that at the beginning. So we just need to update our bomb so that when the player picks it up again, we reset some variables, all right? And this happens in the player interact function. So I'm just going to come down here. Anywhere is good, I guess. At the top is nice though, because it is kind of at the top of the other script, I think. So player interact, we're going to call the super. We'll go ahead and just, I mean, it works pretty good, right? We just need to do a few extra things. So the first thing we'll do after this though, is we'll just reset our throw speed. Throw speed equals OG throw speed. Okay, that's why we've saved that variable. So now if we run the game, and if I pick it up and throw it, and then pick it up and throw it, there, it's working, but it didn't bounce. It's going the right direction, but it's not bouncing because we also have a variable that is bounce count. It's getting incremented up until it reaches the max. So let's just reset that as well. Bounce count equals 0. Okay. Now we'll run this one more time and we should find that we have a fully functional bomb. I can pick it up and throw it, pick it up and throw it. Okay, I've made this bomb not very bouncy so that when you throw it against a wall, it stays close to the wall. All right, I think that's good. Let's wrap it up. If there's issues with this, I'll come back with a subsequent video where we can fix them. But we've got our bomb here. Let me just reset the fuse duration to something more appropriate, like 4. And there we go. So we've kind of created this bomb. We've extended the throwable. Now you could use this to make other unique types of throwables if you want to. You know, like, I don't know what that would be, but, you know, maybe you've got magic orbs or something else that you can throw, or maybe it's some kind of a statue or a block that you can throw around the level. So you can go ahead and kind of do your own thing there. And that's that. So thank you guys for following along. I hope you've learned something new on this one. Now I will be making more abilities videos in the future and even some more bomb related videos here, because obviously we've got these, the bomb is not quite working with the ability yet, so we'll hook that up in a future video and we'll do some other fun stuff. So give this video a like if you appreciate the content, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet. It helps my channel grow, and then you'll know when my next video is coming out. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. Appreciate you guys, and as always, we'll see you next time.